What's up, everybody? It's Coach Sharf. Welcome back to my Algebra 2 Notes videos. And this is the fourth video on solving quadratics. This is the quadratic formula video, the good old quadratic formula that we all know and love from Algebra 1. So let's just jump right in and get to it. So quick recap, if you haven't watched the other three videos, we're talking about solving quadratics. So not factoring. We were just splitting it up, x minus 3 times x plus 5 or whatever. We actually have our quadratic set equal to something, usually 0. We're actually solving for x, okay? So first three videos for factoring, square root method, completing the square, about to do quadratic formula. Again, graphing. I'm not necessarily going to ask you to solve by graphing, to look at a graph and identify what the x-intercepts are. We really kind of, right now, use it as more of a check. We get to graphing next week. The x-intercepts are going to be one of the characteristics that we're looking for, but we looked at all those different characteristics at the vocab at the beginning of the year, so I'm going to be more focused on those characteristics when we get to graphing. All right, so we did factoring in video 1, square root method in video 2, completing the square in video 3. So now we're on the quadratic formula. So it can be used to find the zeros for any quadratic. Zeros is the key. My quadratic has to be set equal to 0. If it's not set equal to 0, I need to see if I can move everything to one side. So, if I had x squared minus 6x plus 12 over here, I'm just making something up. Then x minus 4 over here, I'll need to subtract x and add 4 here to cancel it out on this side. I would do the same over here, which if I did that right in my head, would be x squared minus 7x plus 16. I think I said minus 6x plus 12 equals 0. And then I could do the quadratic formula. So before we actually get into the formula, let's look at a couple examples. So I'm just going to focus on one for the notes video. I'm going to skip the second one because I want to get to a few different examples, but let's start with this first one, x squared minus 2x minus 15. If I wanted to factor, what can I multiply to get 15? It gives me 2. Well, 5 minus 3 gives me 2. When I take my signs into account, since 15 is negative, one has to be positive, one has to be negative. To get negative 2, I would get 3 minus 5. So this is factored. So to actually solve for x now, again, you could set both of these separately equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. Also, x minus 5 equals 0. But in the first notes video on solving with quadratics, we talked about that zero product property. If I can make this set of parentheses equal 0, doesn't matter what's over here. Whatever I multiply is going to give me 0. So really you just got to ask, what's going to cancel out positive 3? Negative 3. It's going to cancel out negative 5, positive 5. So those are going to be my solutions. You could do the same down here. I'll do it since y'all see it. Again, I'll show this problem when you get to it. And again, that could be one y'all maybe try on your own if you didn't do it in the notes in class to see if you wind up getting these answers. Negative 8 is going to cancel out positive 8. 3 is going to cancel out negative 3. So there's going to be my two solutions for that one. So, we're going to see the steps first before we start to just jump right in with the quadratic formula. But this could be the first one that we're going to use the formula for. I already know the answers I should get, so we can just focus on actual process. Okay? So here's your steps. You got to identify A, B, and C in the quadratic using the standard form of a quadratic. Actually fill in the formula. So where you see A, B, and C in the formula, you got to fill in the numbers that you identified for A, B, and C in step 1. Next three steps, last 3 steps, it's a lot of simplifying, which again, really is the best way to describe it. If I really wanted to get particular, it would be about 12 or 13 steps. Maybe not quite that many, but it would be a lot more than 5, and the list would be a lot longer. So simplify negative b, b squared, negative 4ac, 2a separately. You'll be left with 4 numbers. So negative b in front of the, where's my hand? These are so it's kind of hard when I got the background line. So negative b in front of the plus or minus, your square root symbol, two numbers underneath that, divided by a number in the denominator. So your two numbers under the radical, you got to combine those and then simplify the radical. Again, we'll simplify the radical in the last couple methods. Then depending on whatever you're left with at that point, simplify your remaining fraction and get solutions. Again, simplify the remaining fraction. You're not always going to do that. And it has two or three different meanings, but again, we'll see some examples when we get there. All right. So first problem. All right, here's your problem. X squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. I already have standard form of a quadratic written here. I already got the formula written. If y'all want to have these, kind of over here on the side of your paper. So you can just get this, write down A, B, and C, and then immediately jump into this step where I'm filling them in, which y'all see in a sec. You can do that. So we got to identify A, B, and C. Okay, B and C, relatively easy. B is my coefficient on X, which is -2. C is my constant, which is -15. A is my coefficient on X squared. A lot of times, I'm not going to have a number here, so I'm going to have to use 1. Okay? A lot of times, I'm not going to have a number there, so I got to use 1. If there is a number there, I would use that instead. All right, so now what I'm saying, fill this in. You got your formula. What I would do is everywhere you see a letter, I would put a set of parentheses. All right. I would put a set of parentheses. So negative parentheses plus or minus square root of parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses over 2 parentheses. Kind of forgot a number of my steps. This is step 1. Step 2 is where I'm going to fill these in. So I got negative b. B is -2. This is one of the reasons why I put my set of parentheses. A lot of people, when you just see b is negative, they would say, oh, b is already negative, so I could just leave it as -2. So this negative sign isn't just saying negative b. It's saying I'm taking the opposite sign of whatever b currently is. B is currently -2, so when I get to the next step, it's going to flip to +2. Negative b squared, so -2 quantity squared, minus 4. A is 1. C is -15. Stupid pen. -15, there's that. And then 2 times 1. So step 3. Step 3. Again, looking at all these numbers, you got 5 different numbers, just looking at what I have right now. You got 5 different numbers, 5 negative signs, a plus minus sign, a square root sign, a square, and a division bar. So that's kind of a lot to process. So what we got to do is what I said do for step 3, kind of break it up into 4 chunks. Okay. I'm not touching this plus minus. I'm not touching the square root. I'm not touching the fraction bar, but everything else we're going to have to kind of take into account for. So this negative b, -2, is going to turn to +2. Again, pause this if you need to before I slide it down. This -2 is going to turn into +2. Oh, that should have been yellow. My bad. So plus or minus square root. -2 squared is 4. -4 times 1 times -15 is 60. And then divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. So there's step 3. I did each of those parts separate. So now at this point, if we look at step 4, it says simplify the math under the radical and then simplify the radical, which we'll get to in a second. Notice it does not say anything about trying to divide by my denominator if I can. So one of the big mistakes I see a lot of people make is they want to go ahead and divide by 2 there, because again, you get confused, still looking at 4 numbers here. You're not sure what to do, but I guess for whatever reason, your brain, you say, I'm trying to divide all these by 2. 2 divides by 2, 4 divides by 2, 60 divides by 2. So let me go ahead and divide. I can't do that because the 4 and 60 are trapped by the square root sign. Okay. So I can't touch this 2. I'm not going to touch the 2 again until the end of the problem. All right. So step 4. We're going to simplify the math in the square inside the radical and then simplify the radical itself. So let me draw my plus minus. Let me draw my square root. Let me draw my fraction bar. Got 2 plus or minus 64 square root of 64 over 2. So now it says simplify the radical. Again, whatever our radical is going to kind of determine what we do the rest of the problem. Everything to this point in any problem I give you is going to be similar. But whatever our square root is at this point, whatever our radical is at this point, is going to kind of determine what we do for the rest of the problem. So in this case, it's a perfect square. Okay, square root of 64 is 8. So we're going to go ahead and simplify that. Let me make my 2 back to yellow. So I got my 2. I got my 2 in my denominator. Square root of 64 is 8. So I'm going to stick my plus minus between the 2 and the 8 divided by 2. So 2 plus or minus 8 divided by 2. Now at this point in theory, you could go ahead and divide by 2 and get 1 plus or minus 4. But I don't want to do that. Okay, I want to split this into 2 separate answers first and then try to solve. What do I mean by 2 separate answers? I got 2 plus 8 divided by 2, and I've got 2 minus 8 divided by 2. So that's what we're going to split these into. 2 plus 8 divided by 2, 2 minus 8 divided by 2. 2 plus 8 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. 2 minus 8 is negative 6, divided by 2 is negative 3. So these are my 2 solutions. X equals negative 3 and x equals positive 5. If we go back a couple slides, negative 3 and 5 is what I was supposed to get. So first problem, we understand the process now. We knew the answers we were supposed to get. We got them. Starting to feel a little confident. All right. So x squared plus 5x minus 24. Again, y'all could try this one on your own now if you want to, if you didn't do it in class. We already know the answers are supposed to be negative 8 and 3. So if you do it on your own and don't get those, again, if you kind of want to, take a picture, send me in your mind, say, hey, Coach Scharf, we kind of, depend on what class you were in when I did this, you kind of still walk through this one with us, or I was kind of unsure of what I was doing. So I waited till you did it in class, but I wanted to try to see if I could do it myself. Yeah, maybe you weren't there when we did this in class. So, I wasn't there when we did this in class. I tried this on my own. Is this right? Or, if you get the right answers, you're going to know it's right. But I didn't get the right numbers. I did this wrong. What did I do wrong? And I can check that for you. Okay. So the thing about this one is when I did my square root, when I got to that point, it's going to be a square root of 21, which is 11. So it's going to be the same thing where I split it up and got whole numbers. So like I said, everything up to this point is going to be pretty similar. But whatever the square root is going to kind of determine what I do for the rest of the problem. So let's look at a few different examples of that. Let's start with this. X squared plus 9x minus 40 equals 0. So for identifying A, B, and C, again, A, I don't have a coefficient on x squared, so A is going to be 1, B is 9, C is negative 40. Again, you got your formula on the side. If you want to rewrite it for every problem, you can. Now it's supposed to be yellow. So negative parentheses plus or minus square root parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses over 2 parentheses. So let's fill it in. Negative B. B is 9. Plus or minus square root. B squared. 9 squared. Minus 4 times A, which is 1. C, which is negative 40. It's a 40. That's kind of small looking. It's 40, I promise. Yeah, let me actually do this. I think I was having this problem in class with a few of y'all as well. Let's actually make that look more like a 40. I mean, the 4 still kind of doesn't look like a 4, but 40. Oh, God. I don't know. All right. So there's that. There's that. Sorry, I want to make sure this looks like a 40 because some of y'all might be listening to this on mute for all I know and not hearing me talking. Maybe y'all are tired of my voice. I don't know. It's been a month and I talk a lot. Y'all might be tired of my voice already. Anyway, and 2a, so 2 times 1. All right, so forgot to number our steps. Here's step 1. Here's step 2. Step 3. Again, I'm going to do my 4 separate kind of blocks. So I'll draw them in again. You don't necessarily have to draw this in. If you want to do it for a couple more problems till you're comfortable, and then kind of go without it, you can do that as well. No. Rewind the tape. I should have said I was sliding down, but rewind the video. Rewind the tape. Rewind the video a few seconds if you need to. All right. So -9. I want the opposite sign of +9, which is -9. Again, there's only one negative here, so I can just bring it down as -9. Plus or minus square root. 9 squared is 81. So -4 times 1 times -40. What I forgot to mention on the first problem, because the first problem we wound up having the same thing. It was -4, 1, and -15. Of course, you could just punch this. You know, if you can do it in your head, you can do it in your head. Awesome. Even making sure you get your signs right. If you need to punch that in the calculator, that's okay. But a couple things to look for here. One, if this is a 1, I'm not necessarily going to sit here and say cross it out because, you know, again, I saw this on the first quiz when I told y'all you could cross something out in certain situations. Some of y'all just thought you could cross it out at any time, which you can't do. If this is 2 or 3, 4, if it's anything other than 1, I can't cross it out. But if I'm multiplying by 1, again, that's not really going to do anything. So you're just multiplying those together. If this was even still a -1, though, we'd have to take into account because our number of negative signs here, that can kind of be a check for the number I get here. If there's one negative sign, a negative times a positive, my product, so the number I'm going to write next would be negative. A negative times a positive is still a negative. And then if this was +40, that negative times a positive is still going to be negative. If I have 2 negative signs, which I do in this case, a negative times a negative is a positive, then my positive product times this number is still going to give me a positive product. So I'll go ahead and stick my plus there because we know that's going to be positive. If all 3 of these happen to be negative, so again, I'll stick an imaginary negative sign on this one. -4 times -1 is +4. +4 times -40 would be -160. So there would be 3 negative signs. My product would be negative. So if you punch that in the calculator, you know, in this case, if I punch this in the calculator and got -160, I know I'm supposed to get +160. So I type something in the calculator. So if I get -160, the answer I would get here would be -79 squared to -79, and that's going to give me a completely different answer than what I'm going to get. So we want to make sure our sign is correct. All right. Anyway, so now 2 divided by 1 is 2, or 2 times 1. 2 divided by 1, 2 times 1. All right. Step 4. Do my math in my radical. So I got -9 plus or minus. Again, you know, I'm kind of doing this just since I have to switch colors. So -9. Sorry, this pen is kind of glitchy sometimes. -9 plus or minus the square root of 81 plus 160 is 241 over 2. So again, now look at 241. You know, what I do here kind of is going to determine what I do the rest of the problem. Again, y'all see that with a couple more examples that we're going to do. But 241, we know is not a perfect square. It's also not negative, so I don't have to worry about getting the I involved. So I want to see if I can do a factor tree, okay? You know, you can kind of try to do a factor tree from there if you want to take it down further, if you want to write, you know, 241 off to the side somewhere, which is what I'll do. and try to do a factor tree, you can do that. So what can I multiply to get 241? Well, again, that's a pretty big number. It's kind of a funky number. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So instead of just trying to figure out what I can multiply to get it, let's see if I can figure out something I can divide 241 by, and then divide it and figure out what the other number is. So 241 is an odd number. So I can't divide it by 2. Not only can I not divide it by 2, I can't divide it by any even number. 4, 6, 8, 10, so on, so on, so on. So we got to try to, some odd numbers. Again, we're going to kind of have a certain, limit on what we're trying. So if we try 3, if we remember our rule for 3, our digits have to add up to a multiple of 3. 2 plus 4 plus 1 is 7. 7 is not a multiple of 3. If you would just want to divide it evenly, you would get, if you punch in your calculator, most calculators will give you 80.33333333. It'd be 80 with a remainder of 1. So 3 doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. It doesn't end in 0 or 5. 7's kind of a funky number. 241's kind of a funky number. Maybe that works. Again, if you did it in your calculator, you would get 34.428571. I think I did that right. So 34.428571. It would be 34 with the remainder of 3. Okay, if you did the mental math, 27 goes into 24 3 times. 7 times 3 is 21. 24 minus 21 is 3. So you'd have 3. You'd bring down to 1. 7 goes into 31. 4 times with the remainder of 3 doesn't go even. So 7 doesn't work. 9 doesn't work. We always know, again, 9's got its own rule, but we know if it doesn't divide by 3, it won't divide by 9. 11's kind of funky. Again, if you divide it by 11, you would get, I don't know exactly what the decimal would be. It would be just under 22. That would be 21.10 over 11, I think would be 909090. So 21.909090 repeating. I think I did that right in my head. Again, if you're doing it, if you're actually going to try to do long division or do it in your head, 11 goes into 24 twice. 11 times 2 is 22. 24 minus 22 is 2. Bring down your 1. 11 does not go evenly into 21. If it were 22, so I had, one more than 1, so that would, my last digit would be 2. So if this was 242, yeah, 11 would go. It'd be 11 times 22, but that's not what I have. 13 doesn't go. 15 doesn't go. Yeah, now that I expect you to actually calculate the square root of 241, and I don't know if you've learned this trick before. If I actually took the square root of 241, it would be 15. I did this earlier in class, 15.52 maybe? Was it? 15.524. If I made this a perfect square. It's supposed to be 524. 15.524. So when you're trying to see what goes in, if you're trying to do a factor tree for a square root, 15 is not going to work. Okay. So if we actually took the square root and got this, okay, we're trying to use numbers up until 15.524. So we've used 15. 16 is not going to work because it's even. If 17 was going to work, if anything above this was going to work, I would have already found its partner previously. Again, if it was like 17 times 13, for an example, I would have already found its partner. So, 13 doesn't work, 15 doesn't work, kind of hit my upper limit. So basically what I'm saying is I couldn't find anything to divide 241 by. So 241 is going to be a prime number. Okay. 241 is going to be a prime number. It's not negative. If it was negative, I would just throw the I out in front, I square root 241. But I still can't really do anything else other than that. So this is my final answer. That's the final answer I'm looking for. whether you handwrite it on a quiz or on a test. That's my final answer. I can't do anything else to that square root. You know, that -9 doesn't divide by 2 evenly. There's not a number out in front to divide by 2, so that's all I can do. Okay. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do again. I don't want my videos to be too long. So, and it's also getting kind of late. It's after midnight for me. So I'm going to stop with this video. I'm going to go ahead and post these. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get these posted to YouTube before I go to bed tonight. When I get into school tomorrow morning, I'm going to make an assignment that's going to have all the videos in it. I'm going to have to put your work in it as well. And then I will put it in everybody's Canvas. I will go back probably during my lunch tomorrow, since I have planning during lunch tomorrow. I will do an example video with a few more quadratic formula problems separately. Add that video in as well. So your assignment will eventually have 5 videos. Can't really see my hand because of the green screen. So 5, trying to turn where you can see it. 5 videos. Can't see 5 videos. Sorry. 5 videos and 2 assignments in there. Okay. So like I said, you know, I'm gonna record one more video that's got a few more problems. So I'll see you on that video. Again, I'll be dressed different. I'll have my desk background because I'll be at school. So I'll see you on that video. And until then, if I see you in class first, peace out. I'll see you then.